Take a look.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Hero Chris back at you with another one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, the community post. You already know the vibes. And it's Wednesday, so you already know what that means. It's time for your AEW Dynamite review. And people, this episode of Dynamite was interesting. Not necessarily in a good way, not necessarily in a bad way. It was just a real interesting episode of Dynamite. This is the first episode of Dynamite since Dynasty, AEW Dynasty, where we crowned a new AEW World Heavyweight Champion in Swerve Strickland. We have a new TBS champion in Willow Nightingale, and Dynamite is taking place in Daly's place. So you kind of figure that, you know, it's a big show, big action, a whole bunch of good things going on. However, man, something about this episode of Dynamite fell off. I don't know if it was the pacing. It was definitely the sound issues. Like throughout the whole show, they were having issues with their sound. Like you really couldn't hear a lot of what was going on in the promos, the backstage segments, even on commentary. They were just having sound issues. Tony kind of addressed this on Twitter. He said that TBS is working on it, but you know they never really got it fixed. So that really took me out of the show a little bit, and it was getting on my nerves a lot. And then, like I said, the pacing just fell off. There was one particular part, and well, quite a few parts in the show that really did have my interest, but for the most part, I don't know, it just fell off. So it kicked off with the Elite, the Elite. They were pulling up to the show. They pulled up in an SUV, and then in a separate SUV, you see the returning Jack Perry, the scapegoat, the glass man, whatever you want to call him, the king of the jack-offs, whatever you want to call Jack Perry. And then security bum rushes this dude because technically he's not allowed to be in the building. He's not allowed to be on AEW property, even though he's still, I don't even know how the contract situation worked. I know he tore up his contract in Japan, but I don't think that gets you out of your contract from AEW, so I don't really know. But, you know, security was giving Jack Perry a hard time, but the Elite said, nah, he's with us. So you kind of figured that this was setting up something throughout the show. And boy, when we talk about that, we're going to talk about it. But I'm expecting the first thing you see after this will be the AEW champion. However, it was Orange Cassidy's music that hits. And I'm like, oh, brother, here we go with this. But, you know, Orange Cassidy, he comes out, but he's all beat up. His shorts all turned up and everything. And you see Trent is the one that beat up Orange Cassidy. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then you see Trent come out, you know, he's about to put hands and feet on Orange Cassidy. He calls out Chuck because, you know, he's ready for Chuck to make his decision. And you see Trent talking to Chuck about how, you know, when Best Friends first brought in Orange Cassidy, OC was supposed to be like the mascot. He was supposed to be like just the comic relief guy. But he pulled a Steve Urkel in Family Matters and just took the whole thing over. And the Best Friends ended up being Orange Cassidy's mascots and their backup guy or whatever. And Trent's just tired of it, and he's ready for Chuck to make his decision. And Chuck ultimately sides with Orange Cassidy, and he even said shit on national television. If you've been following Trent and Chuck and their adventures, you know that this is something that Chuck has been wanting to say for the longest time. So Chuck finally finished his story. He got to say a curse word on AEW Dynamite television, so you know, good for him. So ultimately, this is going to lead to a parking lot fight on Rampage this Saturday on Rampage. So yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense because the parking lot brawl is kind of like the Best Friends specialty match. It's like the ladder match for the Hardy Boys. It's like the table match for the Dudleys. It makes sense, but I don't really see why this had to open the show technically, as opposed to the next thing, which was Kyle Fletcher taking on whose house? Swerve's house, our new AEW champion. We don't really hear from him. He doesn't say anything. Prince Nana introduces him. He's doing the dance. You see people in Daly's place doing the dance as well. And this is a championship eliminator match. And I hate these. I hate these because nobody ever wins these. The champion never loses. You already know that whoever challenges in these eliminator matches never wins. So it's pretty pointless. And on top of that, Kyle Fletcher has been losing a lot of his matches, so I don't really understand how he got into this position, how he's in contendership for a championship. I don't get it. But you know, the match itself was fine. It was a fine match. Swerve ended up getting the win. This is a surprise to nobody. He won with the house call. Fine match. And then we don't see Swerve anymore for the rest of the show. So I'm like, alright, that's our first appearance of our AEW champion. So, you know, good for him. We're off to a roaring start. But speaking of champions, we have the IWGP champion Jon Moxley setting up for his match against Powerhouse Hobbs, which was the main event. And if you will indulge me, I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to this match because, you know, for what it was worth, it was fine. It was a fine match. Unfortunately, it looks like Powerhouse Hobbs is injured. He injured his knee somehow during the match. And that kind of knocked the mood of the match down. Because up to that point, it was fine. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was a fine match. But once Powerhouse Hobbs got his knee hurt, man, you kind of could see that they were trying to check on Powerhouse. Jon Moxley hit the paradigm shift and then locked in the Bulldog choke to kind of, you know, just wrap things up. So hopefully Powerhouse Hobbs is okay. Hopefully it's not a severe injury. And, you know, prayers up for the big Powerhouse, man. And, you know, another blow for the Don Callis family. But speaking of the Don Callis family, during Dynamite we had a international championship battle royale. It was like a battle royale gauntlet type deal. And it started off with two guys, you know, starting off in the match. And then ever so often another person will come in. And pretty much it was like a sudden death type deal. So the first person to get a pin would ultimately win the battle royale. And you saw Jay White, you saw Kyle O'Reilly with a haircut. And it looks like whoever cut his hair really messed up his hairline. So, you know, prayers up for Kyle O'Reilly's hairline. But you also saw Will Ospreay in the mix. So as soon as I saw Will Ospreay, I was like, that's who's going to win, you know. And it's kind of funny that the first title he's challenging for is the International Championship. Spoiler alert, Will Ospreay ended up getting the win. And, you know, it was cool to see him interacting with Jay White and Kyle O'Reilly. And it even looked like he was going to hit Kyle O'Reilly with a Tiger Driver, but he hesitated because during the media scrum, Will Ospreay said that he retired the Tiger Driver 91 because of what it did to Bryan Danielson. And this hesitation ultimately almost cost him the match. But Will Ospreay is the best at what he does, so he ended up getting the win. And then after the match, you heard Will Ospreay talking to Don Callis and Kyle Fletcher. And Don Callis is kind of laying into Kyle Fletcher because he lost. And he's laying into Will Ospreay as well because he's like, listen, you had an opportunity to win with that Tiger Driver. Why didn't you do it? And Will Ospreay said, I don't want to, man. You saw what it did to Bryan Danielson. And Don Callis is like, yo, fuck that. You gotta win, dude. You have an opportunity to beat Roderick Strong for the international championship. You gotta take it. So valid points were made by Don Callis. You even saw the Undisputed Kingdom come out, and you know they had a face-to-face with Will Ospreay. So you know that was that. Yeah. But happy days are here again because next week Kenny by God Omega is making his return. They're going to be in Winnipeg, Canada next week for Dynamite, so you know that should be cool. It's always good to see Kenny Omega. Hopefully he provides us with an update as far as his progress goes, as far as his health goes, as far as when he can come back officially. So you know it'll be good to see old Kung Fu Kenny come back. But after this we had a backstage segment between Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo. They pushed each other, they fought for a little bit, and this Saturday on Collision or Rampage, whichever show it's going to be Saturday, they're going to have a match. For some reason, I thought that they would have a match on Double or Nothing, but you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. And after this, we had a match between Mina, I don't know how you say your last name. Forgive me, Mina. You are very fine. You are very hot. But I cannot pronounce your last name. And she wrestled Anna Jay. And, you know, you can see the improvement in Anna Jay. But, you know, Mina, what's her face, ended up getting the win. And then after the match, Mariah May got choked up by Anna Jay, and this caused Timeless Tony Storm to come out. And I was kind of confused. I was like, aren't they supposed to be heels, but they're getting a face reaction? So that was a little confusing, but it was entertaining nonetheless. And then after this whole shenanigans took place, you saw Serena Deeb come out, and it looks like she's challenging Toni Storm for a title shot. I'm assuming at Double or Nothing, maybe Collision or Rampage or Dark or Elevation, I don't know. But it's looking like the next opponent for Old Time with Toni Storm will be the Professor Serena Deeb. Do not call her the final boss because she will be sued and she is not The Rock. We had even more women's business because we had a celebration from Willow Nightingale. She's out there with Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander, and earlier you saw them at Chuck E. Cheese, so that was a very fun moment for them. And Willow's out there celebrating. She's talking about how she's the new TBS champion, and before she could really get into the celebration, she's interrupted by the CEO of Mercedes Moné. This is like the 15th or 11th time that Mercedes interrupted Willow, and Willow called her out on this. She said, listen, if you have something to say, just come out and say it. And you can kind of feel that Mercedes is still feeling some type of way because Willow was the last person she wrestled before she was injured, and you can kind of tell that Mercedes is feeling like, you cost me a year of my career, you almost cost me my career as is. So at Double or Nothing Count Your Days, you curly haired hussy because the title was coming home with a CEO. And Willow cut a really great promo. And I'm excited for their match at Double or Nothing. It should be the main event. A lot of people are speculating that it will be the main event. We just gotta wait and see. We also saw Caprice Coleman on commentary doing the freestyle for Willow Nightingale, which popped me tremendously. So after this, we unfortunately had to hear from the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. I can't even lie to you, I kind of checked out at this point because I don't care about Chris Jericho. I don't care about the numerous gimmicks he goes through, the numerous catchphrases or name changes he's going through. He has a new theme. He's not going to the Lionheart theme, so cool, but I did not care. And another thing I did not care about was, unfortunately, Big Bill came out. And you're thinking like, oh brother, Big Bill is going to challenge Chris Jericho? Wrong. He actually wants to align with Chris Jericho. He wants to learn under the Learning Tree. He wants to, accept the wisdom and knowledge that Chris Jericho has. And I'm like, oh, brother, not Big Bill. Not like this. Not like this. So it's looking like we're getting another Chris Jericho faction. I wouldn't be surprised if Sammy Guevara is involved for some reason because, you can't have Chris Jericho without Sammy Guevara. It's like a package deal that you can't get rid of. But a bright spot is coming from this because Shibata challenged Chris Jericho for the FTW Championship. I think it's going to take place next week on Dynamite, so there's that. So up to this point, man, Dynamite was really up and down. Like I said, the sound issues, Chris Jericho and his dumbass gimmick. It was a lot of weird stuff going on. But one thing that didn't have me locked in was what was going on with the Elite, Jack Perry, and Tony Khan. So earlier in the show, the Elite said that Tony Khan will speak to Jack Perry in the main event segment. So Jack Perry comes out first. He says he's had a lot of great memories in Daly's Place, and 5 years ago, he started off in AEW. He wanted to help change the world, and he calls out Tony Khan. Tony Khan's coming out looking goofy as he always does. And Jack Perry says that he wants to, do right. He wants to change the world. He wants to be a part of AEW. And ultimately, Tony Khan and Jack Perry hug. But Jack Perry has this menacing, devilish look on his face. And he attacks Tony Khan. He hits him with the microphone. And God bless Tony Khan. He tried to sell it. He looked so goofy, selling that microphone shot. And then you have the Elite come out and they're like, Jack Perry, what are you doing? What are you doing? And they're helping up Tony Khan. And you see the Young Bucks kind of positioning Tony Khan for what looked like the BTE trigger. I'm like, oh man, are they about to attack Tony Khan? And they don't necessarily, but they ultimately do because they hit Tony Khan with the Khan driver, whatever it's called. It used to be the Meltzer driver, but God bless him. And this is how Dynamite closes out. It closes out with the Elite standing over Tony Khan's broken, goofy
never blinking body, you know, and you have officials coming out, you have wrestlers coming out. They're like, get away from him, Elite, you losers, you get out of here. And it's funny because you see Matthew and Nicholas saying, "Oh man, what a great crowd! You guys are awesome." After they just beat up their boss, so you know, who knows where this is gonna go? You have the return of Kenny Omega next week. The Elite just beat up Tony Khan. And I'm like, you know, this really would have been a great show if it wasn't for the sound issues, if it wasn't for the wonky pacing, if it wasn't for, you know, Swerve getting more of an opportunity to talk or say something. This would have been a really good show. It was okay, but it could have been a lot better. But it is what it is, man. With that being said, guys, what did you think of this week's episode of Dynamite? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you absolutely think it sucked? Did you not care? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You guys take care. Be easy. I'm out. Peace.